And we're live. Hello to the B2B Live Lounge. If you're watching or listening on the podcast, I am honoured to have with me the infamous Mr. LinkedIn, Mark Williams. Hello, Mark.
What do you mean infamous?
Well, you're infamous in my world.
I'm not famous, so I suppose infamous is.
Well,
is
you are famous. You are famous, and in my world, you were once tipped as my husband. So I think
so I believe. So how did that happen then? What was that? What's the story there?
So the story there was that a client of mine did very kindly a video testimonial, which was lovely of her to have done this. And this was very, very early days when I was first starting out as a LinkedIn trainer. And she said, "You've got this lady is Mrs. LinkedIn. She's the one, Mrs. LinkedIn." And I thought, oh, I like that. I'll have that, thanks. And so changed my profiles and my banner and everything as Mrs. LinkedIn. And it was literally 2 or 3 days later, I got a message from somebody and said, "Oh, are you married to Mark Williams?" And I was like, I didn't even know who you were then, which is a terrible confession I have to make. But I was very new to all this game. And I rushed over, had a look at your profile, and there you were proudly as Mr. LinkedIn. And I think I said to you earlier, Mrs. Williams and Mr. Clay may not have been very joyous about that. So I thought, well, I better cease and desist and get off.
Cease and desist, yeah. So she was serious. She actually thought we were married, or she was just making a joke of the fact that we both had the same brands or similar brands.
No, she was deadly serious. She actually thought we were married.
as if you do that. Can you imagine? We're a family.
LinkedIn.
We come and train you together.
Hey, yeah, 2 for 1. That would be good, wouldn't it? Good value. Okay, good value. But you've been teaching LinkedIn for a lot longer than I have, Mark, since 2008, I believe.
I know, ridiculous, isn't it? 17. Is that 17 years? Yeah, 17 years. Long time. I always say to people that it's a long time. That yes, but there's been an awful lot of change in that time. So it's not like I never feel like I've done one job for 17 years. In fact, actually, if I look back at my career, I mean, I was never a job hopper, but I would typically move about every 7 or 8 years into different things, different companies or different types of roles. And then I got into doing this. It's a bit different when you work for yourself, of course, as well. But I've never even thought about doing anything different. But that I think is partly because LinkedIn's changed so much, and I don't just mean the website LinkedIn. I mean the community and the way people use LinkedIn and the whole environment around it. It's a totally different place to when I first started. So it kind of keeps you sharp, keeping on top of all of that, and interested.
Absolutely. And I actually was doing a training today for a group program that I haven't run for a year. So I was going through my slides and, updating them the other day. And God, there's been a lot of new things happening during just this last year. And you must have seen so many changes in 17 years. And as you say, it's not just about the platform itself, but it's about how people are using it, isn't it?
I quite like opening some of my old keynote presentations going way back to 2009 and stuff like that, and seeing all the screenshots that I used in them and stuff. It's just bizarre. You look at it and you go, "Oh, that looks awful." At the time, we thought it looked great, There you go.
My first ever LinkedIn banner was just dreadful. I don't know what I was thinking, but yeah. But we grow.
I do remember. Yeah, a big point in terms of visibility for me happened. Now I want to say this was 2012, but I might be wrong actually in that. Anyway, they had a massive, complete redesign of LinkedIn. And it wasn't just like subtle changes. It was, some people will remember this, others won't, but it was a complete wow, that is a totally different thing. And I was one of the first to get it. And I don't know why, it was just a random thing. And so I was all over that. I was doing videos showing people what it was, and everyone was like, "Wow, look how different it is." That was a stroke of luck, really, because that, it's amazing how much more visible that makes you. I was doing like videos that were just getting massive views because there's this real kind of hunger for wanting to know what this new thing was.
Well, LinkedIn do love it, don't they? When they've got a new feature, they want you to use it, don't they?
Yeah, they often, it used to be more pronounced than I think it is now, but they often used to give you much greater visibility to certain, your profile being more visible if you used a certain new feature in your profile. If it's a certain new type of post, that would become much more visible. You could say that's videos like that at the moment, maybe, but I think that's a slightly different thing. But yeah, I think when they want a feature to be widely adopted, they give it a bit of a boost, if you like. They still don't tell anyone about it, of course. They still like to introduce things on the quiet and hope that we find them.
Oh, I know. I do. Do you know, there's something quite weird that I do quite like, that this kind of, found in the wild, as Kevin D. Turner calls it, and oh, look, I just found something new. And it's a little bit like, the Easter egg hunt, isn't it? And something just pops up and you can get quite excited about it. Although, of course, it would make our lives easier if we were aware of the new
Maybe
things.
that's the psychology of it. I don't know. I think there's an element, and at the end of the day, if they made LinkedIn really, really easy to use, then perhaps we wouldn't be doing the jobs we're doing. So, you can't really complain about it. But I think they've always taken I think it's a Silicon Valley thing, a sort of attitude of they'll find it. People will figure it out for themselves. They're probably a bit better at communicating changes now than they used to be. But no, it's always, I think it's always been very strange, particularly in what they'll do is they'll bring a new feature in and then they get rid of it 18 months later. And their justification is nobody used it. I'm like, well, you didn't tell anyone about it. So why would they?
For a marketing platform, they're not very good at their own marketing, really, are they?
No, definitely not. Well, unless it's selling ads or, something that directly wins them customers. But in terms of features and functionality of the site, they don't really spend much effort on that really at all.
I know, it is a shame, but hey ho. As you say, if it was too easy, then we'd be out of a job. So maybe it's not such a bad thing. So, yes. So talking of how people use LinkedIn has changed and how people are behaving, etc., etc. I know one of the things that you talk about a lot is being proactive on the platform and not just sort of sitting around and sitting in your deck chair and hoping that the sun will shine, kind of thing. So what's your sort of, I'd love you to expand on what kind of activity you think works on LinkedIn, and how often, how much should we be doing this, should we be doing that? What kind of stuff do you see that you seeing working now? Because obviously it's changed over the years.
Yeah, I mean, the word proactive itself can be a little bit dangerous, particularly in a sales environment, because that could be perceived as being a kind of pseudo term for knocking on doors. That's certainly proactive, and sending cold DMs to people and stuff like that's not what I'm talking about in any way, shape, or form. In my podcast last week, I talked about a potential client who contacted me and wanted to do training on LinkedIn, but they could only allow people access to LinkedIn for half an hour a week. And I was like, crikey, the temptation would be, if you were only given half an hour a week, to just get incredibly direct, because you think, well, all I've got is time to send a load of DMs to people I don't know. And even given that restriction, I would still steer people in a different direction. Proactivity to me is about being live and active on the platform, commenting, engaging with people, searching for content that's relevant to be involved in. Don't rely on your homepage feed. Search for good content, find it, engage with it, meet new people. Just get out there and start virtually shaking a lot of hands and meeting people. The magic in business and social media always happens when you start actually engaging one-to-one, one-to-many with people. And I think deciding, doing a search, finding a target customer, sending them a direct message, or sending them an invitation to connect, having done nothing else before that, is just an approach that, whilst I get it, it's tempting to do that because it makes you feel like you're really trying to make things happen. In reality, it's very unsophisticated and a blunt instrument, frankly. There's no precision to that at all. The best way to generate business on LinkedIn is to become highly visible. And to become highly visible, you need to be highly active. The more active you are, the better. But that activity needs to be far more about engaging, commenting particularly, than it is about posting, although that's also an important tool that you can use. So it's things like that, really, I would say. That's what I mean by proactivity.
Oh my gosh, there's so many things there to unpick that you've mentioned. Oh, this is good. And I agree 100%. But actually, before I do that, talking of engaging, we've got Nick Payne is sitting in his deck chair right now. So Nick, I'm really glad you're with us, and I'm glad you're sitting in your deck chair and enjoying. Hello, Nick. Nick's a colleague of mine, actually. He's a videographer. So thank you, Nick, for that. Talking of how, this whole kind of salesy thing. And I always, my big thing about LinkedIn is it's not a social media platform, it's networking. And it is the biggest networking party in the world. And I always say, you're at the party, don't stay in the kitchen where your friends are and the booze and the food is. You've got to get out. You've got to go out the kitchen. You've got to wander around the party and talk to other people in exactly the same way that you said, and start shaking hands and saying hello to people. Because otherwise you won't benefit, will you? You'll just stay in your lane. And
no, and I think that there's an extra element to that, in that I do think there is a danger sometimes on LinkedIn that we can take the easiest course, which is, so we engage with posts of people that we already know, and the other people that also engage with those posts are people that we also know. And what we're actually doing is just having a nice party, right? And we're all chatting away and getting on well and all the rest of it. But actually, you've also got to take a step back sometimes and go, well, hold on a second, this great, and I should do this, and that's good. But I also need a bit of focus here on finding targeted people that are very relevant to my business objectives, whatever they might be, and finding them and finding ways of engaging with them. It's a bit like going to a networking event. It's a huge room full of people and there's lots of friendly faces. And so you go and you talk to the friendly faces and you have a chat and all, it's all great. And then, you go home at the end of it 3 hours later or whatever, and you go, well, I didn't really get anything out of that other than it was great fun. I enjoyed myself, but actually, I am here to generate business. I do need some new customers. And what did I achieve by just chatting to those people? Now, it's not quite the same as that on LinkedIn, because if you do a post and I comment on your post, then those people that follow you and follow me are now both exposed to both of us, right? So there is always benefit in engagement with people that you already know and that you already have a relationship with. But equally, you've also got to step outside that and be quite targeted. And I think there's a balance here. So on one extreme, you got people that just do that, find strangers, send them an invitation to connect or send them a direct message. Don't do that. You're pushing water uphill trying to do that. You're going to get significantly more rejection than acceptance. But then at the same time, the other extreme is that we're all having a wonderful time and we're all chatting to each other, but nobody's making any money. So you got to find that balance in between the two, where there's that focus as well as the interaction with people that you already know.
Absolutely. And the phrase that you wouldn't ask someone to marry you on a first date comes to mind, because you just wouldn't. You've got to chat to people and get to know them first. And you're right, it's a balance. And sometimes when we start out on LinkedIn, we might get that balance wrong and we might mess up a bit and make a few mistakes. But you've got to have a go, haven't you, and get in there and start doing it and talking to people. And I think, like yourself, train a lot of sales teams, and they say, oh, it's a numbers game. It's a numbers game. I'm like, well, it's not really, actually. It's a connection game. And that's what we need to be doing. This sort of splatter gun approach where we're just sending random DMs to a whole load of people. It just doesn't work, does it?
Yeah, I mean, you have to be careful with that. It's interesting in the words that you use, isn't it? And the potential way people can read those words. So connection game might be interpreted as build as many connections as you can, which is not
Yes.
the game either. So I think probably a better word is relationships. Yeah, it's a relationship and engagement game. And that's what you're trying to do is build relationships with a wide range of people, but target those relationships as well as those that just happen. Those will always go on, and that's great. But you also just need to have a bit of an eye on making sure that you're pointing in the right direction. At the end of the day, I think one of the biggest pushbacks I get when training, and you might find this as well, is I haven't got time for all this, Mark. There's loads of stuff you're talking about. It's all great, but wouldn't it be great if I could spend all day on LinkedIn? But I can't. So I've got to, use my time sparingly and be focused in what I do. And I absolutely 100% agree with that. So yes, there's lots of distraction. And I agree, LinkedIn isn't really a social media site. I mean, officially it is, but it's not really. But what it does have is some of the disadvantages that social media also have, which is distraction. If I had a sales team reporting to me and they were all on LinkedIn, one of my concerns would be is how focused are you? One of the things I'd be really keen to make sure that I did was recruit people that really understood what they were trying to get, were really motivated to get there, and had a very focused approach to their work. Now, at the same time, I also want them to be people, i.e. really warm, the kind of people that can build relationships with people. And of course, that's a difficult combination. We've all met highly focused people that are as cold as ice, right? That isn't going to work in sales. So that's a tricky combination to find. But without a doubt, social media, LinkedIn included in that, is a distraction, and things like this week in my podcast, I'm doing an episode on the video feed. And, I love the video feed, but, it is distracting. One feed of just videos, you can potentially just go down a rabbit warren there and lose yourself for an hour. And before you know what, you've had a great time, but you've not actually really achieved anything in that. And so, yeah, there is an element of trying to make sure that you're always very focused. My answer to those people that say we haven't got time for this is I say, look, you can't spend all day on LinkedIn for sure, and I'm not suggesting you do, but you do need to dedicate a decent amount of time to it, because what you put in is what you get out. But be focused with that time, really focused, making sure that you are driving the right kind of behaviors and the right sort of things that are going to lead to the results that you want. At the same time, be sociable as well. Balance between the two. Life and business is never that simple. It's never black and white. It's always about finding the sweet spot, the balance between X and Y. And, LinkedIn's no different, frankly.
Yeah, absolutely. And you make it sound so simple, and actually for somebody who's been on LinkedIn for so long, and for people who use it regularly, it isn't a difficult process. But I think it's getting your head wrapped around what actually LinkedIn is and what it's about. And I think that's where people stumble. And often it's a mindset piece, isn't it? And just helping people understand what LinkedIn is. And once they get that, then the whole journey becomes easier. And as you say, much more efficient, and you don't have to spend all day there.
Yeah, my mindset's key, really key. It's one of the biggest things I cover with people right at the start of any training relationship is, let's be clear about what we're talking about here. And they're often shocked by this, by the way, as well, because particularly salespeople, because their perception of LinkedIn is that it's a marketing tool. And I straight away tackle that and go, this is not about marketing. Marketing, company pages, marketing department, great, let them do it. Your job is to build visibility through relationships, right? Visibility is your key. Now, that visibility isn't look at us, we're great, we're going to an exhibition, find us on stand day. I went to to an event yesterday. Look at me. Here's pictures of me at this event, or here's our new product. Blah blah blah. All of that is what you want to talk about. It's not what your audience want to read or consume in any way at all, right? One of the questions I ask people in a pre-course questionnaire is, give me 3 things, topics that are really important topics to your target audience, and it amazes me the amount of people that come back, like, let's say they're a widget manufacturer, and they'll come back, one of the answers will be widgets. And I'm like, really? Do you honestly think your target clients are sitting there thinking about your products like they're really that interested in them. They're not, right? Get real. They're interested in other stuff, and you've got to tune into that, talk the same language, and get into conversations with them about that, because that's how you build relationships. You don't need to push products to people. It's not about marketing something out there. It's about building visibility.
Absolutely. And I mean, I always say, look at the problems that they've got. Why did they come to you? What were the questions that they asked you when they first came, or when they first come to you? They don't come to you and saying, I need a widget. They say, I have got this problem. And you go, oh, well, you need a widget. And it's reframing, isn't it? Reframing what it is that you do and looking at the problems of your audience. And I use WIIFM, what's in it for me. And always you've got to think about, that's what the people who are looking at your content are thinking. What's in it for me? And what am I going to get out of this? Because no matter how much you talk about yourself, as you quite rightly said, they're not really that bothered. As long as they need something that's relevant that they can hold on to.
The one I always used to use, I used to have years and years ago in a previous life, I had like a sales teams working for me. And, I'd listen to someone on the phone to a client, and I come off the phone and I go, right, let me just go through what you said. So you said this, why did you say this? And I go, because da da da. And my one would be SFW, and I won't say what the F is, but the S and the W is so and what, right? So effing what. And to make the point really get home, which sometimes you really have to do when training someone, I'd literally sit in front of them and they'd say something and I'd go, SFW. And I'd be like, I say, okay, so let me think about that a different way. And they'd say it a different way and I go, SFW. Right. Make it relevant to me, that matters to me. I'm saying to you, so effing what, right? Why is that important to me? And eventually they get there. But that is a mindset change. That is a mindset change to thinking about specifically putting yourself in the shoes of the people that you're talking to.
Yeah, brilliant. I love that. I'm just looking. Nick's added a comment here. What's he saying? That's a good point. To engage the people outside of your circle. It sounds obvious. It kind of does, but it's true. I'll start doing this more. There you go. Nick's taking action. I love this. Funny, I've just asked someone to marry me. It's our first date. Nick, you haven't. I want to hear more. Please tell me more if you have. If anybody else has got any comments as well, please pop them in the chat. Oh God, I'm looking at the time. These things fly by so quickly, don't they? You were talking about the video feed, which changed. I mean, it's all new. I mean, it's that they keep changing it, and there's been another little change to it recently this week. What do you think? I mean,
I kind of split opinion on it, really. I'm a fan generally. I like video content. I mean, video content's not new to LinkedIn. Obviously, that's been around since, I think, I don't know, 2012 or something like that. But it's been around a long time. But video content in its own feed on the mobile app is a completely new thing since last year. And it does concern me a bit, because I think the problem with that type of video content in TikTok style like that is it's very easy just to watch the video, flick to the next one, watch the video, flick to the next one, watch the video, flick to the next one. And what worries me is the engagement that's going on. And sometimes you will see videos with a decent number of comments, but then when you dig into the actual comment thread, there's not really any conversations going on there. Now, there is sometimes, don't get me wrong, but what worries me a little bit about video content, and there's many upsides to it, which I'll come on to, but yeah, it's just that it feels like it's taken us down a route of people not actually really communicating well with each other. I understand why they've done it. The future for LinkedIn is a younger generation, as they're coming over from other platforms like TikTok, where they're used to consuming content that way. They have to make it appealing. And I get that. But are we going to end up in a world where LinkedIn becomes a consumption platform? I'm just here to consume, just to take information in, or to be entertained, or whatever it might be. And all of that's great. But as I've already said, the magic happens when you build relationships and when you engage with people. And it kind of lacks that a bit for me. And that's, I think LinkedIn needs to be a bit careful. They're pushing it a lot at the moment. Everyone's jumping on the bandwagon. I say, I actually, I'm doing an episode about it this week for the podcast. I actually opened the podcast by saying, I can't believe I'm jumping on the bandwagon here and talking about LinkedIn video, like everyone is. But it's got to be done. You know, it is what it is. There are many upsides to it, though. I mean, video content, whether it's in a video feed or not, you know, and I'm talking here, talking head, right? So you talking to the camera. It's immensely powerful. If you want to develop a real relationship with your audience where they really get a feel for who you are, you need to be in front of a camera and talking to them. Like, no question in my mind, that is one of the most powerful ways of building a loyal following of people on LinkedIn. Obviously, you've got to say the right things and do it in a way that reveals your personality. It's not about reading a script, and it's not about being very static in the way that you present facts and figures and stuff like that, unless that is your personality. But really, you got to flow and let it come out and just be yourself. Or if you do that, then some people are going to watch that and go, well, he's a bit of a knob, he's not my type at all. And other people are going to go, I really like him, that's my kind of person. And that's exactly what good content should achieve, and you'll achieve it far quicker and better through video than any other format, other than perhaps podcasting. Although I wouldn't say quicker with podcasting, because podcasts take a long time, but you do get more time with people on a podcast than you do on a video. So, but those two forms of media, and obviously podcasting isn't relevant to LinkedIn, are the best ways that I know of people where you get that effect where someone feels like they really know you when actually they've never met you and they don't know you at all, but they've listened to you and watched you enough that they really kind of get you and understand you. And they're the time, you know, if we're trying to create visibility so that we create inbound business opportunities, the inbound business opportunities that we want are people who are congruent to us, get us, you know, want to work with us. And they're the best clients to work with, as I'm sure you know, because you're just immediately chatting to them and they're chatting away like you've been best friends forever. You know, that's easy for them and pleasurable and beneficial for them, and easy for you as well. And the whole environment becomes better. And I'm talking about training because that's what we do, but that's the same in any business, frankly. Barriers are broken down where people get to know you first, and video is a fantastic way of doing that. So that's why I'm a fan. But as I say, the format does bring me some reservations in terms of engagement.
No, I think that's the really valid points, actually. First of all, video is a great way to get closer to your audience. And obviously, the closer you can get to them emotionally, the more likely they are to then buy from you, as you quite rightly say. And I remember after we'd been locked away in our homes for however long it was, and I'd been doing loads of video and, you know, going out and meeting people at live events. And they were saying, oh my gosh, you're exactly the same as you are on LinkedIn. I think, why would I be anything else?
Yeah,
you know,
that's not always
I
the
just
case.
don't know, you know, and just chatting away. So I did meet somebody quite recently who was sort of a little bit overwhelmed at meeting me. It was really weird. It was a bit sort of celebrity effect. And then I opened my mouth to say, oh, well, you know, hello, nice to meet you. And she goes, oh, I thought you were American. I was like, do you not watch my videos? No, I am not American. I'm English. So, yeah. But also, like you say, it becomes, it's so easy to consume video. It's just a passive passive pastime, isn't it? And just, it's so easy just to scroll through.
That's the thing. The mechanics of that video feed are that if you want to comment on a video, you got to kind of, you open up a panel from the bottom that kind of covers the video, and then you got to scroll through and read the comment thread and then comment. And it just feels like you're not particularly encouraged to do so. You're more encouraged to just flick on to the next video. Right, I've consumed that. That's great. I probably have got a view on that, but hey, there's another one coming. Let's see what that one's like. There's that sort of temptation to let's get on to the next one. Let's get on to the next one. And yeah, that just worries me in terms of might be missing the thing that's most important about LinkedIn in all of that.
And I suppose as a video creator, if you're putting video out there, the metrics that you want to be looking at, not necessarily the metrics of the engagement on that video, but whether that video is converting into profile views and more connections and more followers. And I suppose that will be the key to tell you whether or not this is working for you or not, rather than just looking at the metrics on that individual video.
Yeah, I mean, it wouldn't be always easy to know that, of course. Even if you ask the questions, people don't always remember, which is the nature of visibility, really. At least you do get, you know, that time watched on videos. It's obviously a broad across all videos. You don't see it, you know, not all videos, sorry, a video, but all those people that watch it, including people that literally are there for 3 seconds. And so it's not 100% accurate, but it's an indication. If you did a 1 minute video and your average view time is 40 plus seconds or something, then that's a pretty good sign that that's a decent video. And if you compare that to one that's got an average watch time of 10 seconds, then you go, well, what can I learn from that? So there is, I mean, that's a relatively new feature, and I think that that's quite useful and good to know. But yeah, I'm not sure you're always going to be able to judge it by engagement, whereas I would always judge a post by the number of comments that it attracts and what happens in that thread. To me, that would be the golden measure. I'm not so sure that you have the opportunity to do that with video as much. And I think you have to work a lot harder to try and get people to comment on a video, you know. And even then, as I say, that just the format of it, the mobile format anyway, doesn't particularly lend itself to it. So even if you really push the engagement piece in the video, you still might find you're never going to get the same number of comments.
Yeah, good point. And talking of engagement, I have bad news, I'm afraid.
We're out of time.
No, well, we are, but look, Nick said she refused him. I think you went in
got turned down.
Yeah, he got turned. I think you went in too soon.
When you dive in too quick.
That's what happens. You get pushed away. I'm loving the story, Nick. Thank you. We are out of time, but I need to get the last question in very quickly. The last question. We've missed a question out, but that's fine. But the last question we need in.
Right.
So to those people who are watching now or listening to the podcast, can you give 3 takeaway tips that they can take away in action today?
Okay, so the first one would be pick 3 words. So I mentioned this before. Pick 3 words that you think, or phrases that you think represent something that would be particularly important to your target audience. And then go and search posts, to do a post search of those words or phrases, find content from people that you don't follow, completely new to you, never heard of these people before, but they are posting about something that you know is of interest to your target audience, and comment on those posts. Amazing amount of people that just rely on their homepage feed or on their notifications from people who've clicked the bell. Both great techniques, nothing wrong with either of those, but they don't do the search piece. And that, to me, allows you to find, it's a more targeted way of operating, and that gets you away from this, you know, happy party of people that you always communicate with, gets you into a new lot of people and meeting new people, which I think is key. So that's the first one I would say. Second one, I actually talked about this at last year's Uplift Live, but it's something that's very important to me, which is don't just focus on potential customers. Big mistake people make. Obviously, you focus on potential customers, but people just leave it there. Think about people that fall into the category of people that are active on LinkedIn and as motivated as you are to reach your target customers. Okay, so they may be selling something completely different. Probably less appropriate for competitors to do this with. Find those people on LinkedIn, engage with them, connect with them, and build relationships with them. I'm amazed the amount of people that miss out on this. So many people you can collaborate with and work together with, and both become more successful as a result of that collaboration. Don't make life difficult by always trying to knock on the door of people that don't know you. You know, ask for introductions and work a system with other people who help you in terms of spreading your content to more relevant people. And, you know, you're spreading their content as well by engaging with their content, and also introductions as well. So that'd be the second one. Now, the third one is ask more questions to customers and prospects about the issues that really matter to them. So again, I've already touched on this, but I just amazed the amount of people that just don't know their potential customer base well enough. They know who they are, they know what their job titles are, but they don't live in their world. And if you want to have customers, you've got to be part of their community. You can't be someone on the outside of it. To me, it makes no sense. I've met people in like a sales job, and I asked them questions, reasonably detailed questions about their industry, and they don't know the answers. And I'm like, how do you not know that? These people, that's the world they live in, and you've got to be consumed in that same world. Otherwise, you're always just going to be an outsider. It should be they see you as part of the community and they respect you as a valuable member of their community, and you can offer them something as well. That's how that relationship should always be. So ask questions, find out, go to people that you already know well, that are existing customers, and find out the things that really matter to them, positive or negative. What's keeping them awake at night? What excites them? What disappoints them? All of those things that are strong emotions, they're the things that you should be posting about on LinkedIn and finding content about on LinkedIn and commenting. So they're the three things.
Gosh, I love those. I'm going to quickly try and summarize. So pick 3 words which will be important to your audience and look for content with those words, and then engage on that content. And that's going to really help you save loads of time on LinkedIn and be more focused, which I love. Don't just focus on your potential customers. Look for collaborations. Look for other people who want the same customers as you and work together, use each other, and then ask more questions to your customers about their world so you can understand it better. Yep. I know that was a very brief summary, and you're much more valuable, but amazing. Now we've got Andrea. I'm just going to quickly change here. Andrea says, don't give up, Nick. There you go. Mark Williams
pays off, Nick.
Amazing. Now, it was funny because the question I had about the video feed, I didn't know until now that your podcast this week is about LinkedIn video. So that was a nice little tie-in. So when
I've just been recording it literally in the last hour, so that's right at the forefront of my mind.
And when does that come out?
Saturday.
So is it every Saturday, your podcast?
Yeah, there or thereabouts.
Ish.
Yeah, I mean, it's not always every Saturday, but most Saturdays, yeah.
But have a look out for Mark Williams' LinkedIn form. No.
Not allowed to call it that, the lawyers say. Informed by Mark Williams. You just search for Informed by Mark Williams.
For Mark's podcast. Now, Mark, where's the best place to find you?
Well, there and LinkedIn. That's it.
Brilliant. Mark Williams, it's been amazing to have you on the show. Thank you so much for coming.
Enjoyed it.
And we will see you again soon, hopefully.
All right. Good stuff.